Iconic fashion moments, the Dior Juno dress. There have been a lot of memorable moments in fashion history, from Marilyn Monroe's hot pink dress in Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, to the Versace jungle dress that effectively created Google images, to the Chanel chain dress that gets duped constantly. But how familiar are you with Christian Dior's Juno dress? One of the legendary designer's most iconic ensembles, the sequined gown has been inspiring fashionistas for nearly 80 years, and has been referenced in film, on stage, and even by other fashion designers. Today we're going to be taking a look at the history of this spectacular gown and discuss all the times it's been recreated, for better or for worse. But first, a word from today's sponsor, June's Journey. June's Journey is a hidden object mystery game that is set in the Roaring '20s. The main character, June, moves back home following the deaths of her sister and brother-in-law, and she has a lot of questions about what really happened. With the police being utterly useless, she decides to solve the mystery herself, which is pretty badass. Like a real detective, you visit different locations and look for clues to help you solve cases, and the story is updated every single week, meaning there's always something new to discover. It's like you're in an Agatha Christie novel or something, and I just love all the little details which are surprisingly historically accurate. And I know it sounds like this would be super easy, but honestly, I get stumped all the time. You also have an island that you can decorate with a bunch of different items, and I've spent hours just rearranging things to get it exactly the way I want it to look. So support the channel and download June's Journey for free today by clicking the link in the description or by scanning the QR code on the screen. Now let's get back to the video. In 1937, 32-year-old Christian Dior entered the fashion industry as a designer for Robert Piguet, and he designed several collections for the house until he was called in for military service in 1939. In 1941, Dior returned to Paris and began working for Lucien Lelong, where he remained for 5 years. Impressed by his work, entrepreneur Marcel Boussac offered Dior a position as the head designer for the struggling fashion house of Philippe et Gaston, but Dior declined, wanting his own label that he could experiment with instead. Boussac agreed to finance this venture, and on February 12, 1947, Christian Dior released his very first fashion collection as an independent designer, and changed style as we know it. Referred to by members of the press as the new look, Dior's designs deviated from the typical fashions of the 1940s, which had been affected by wartime rationing, resulting in shorter hemlines, functional footwear, military-esque jackets, and very few embellishments, which, side note, we have a video all about. With their corseted waists, full skirts, and lush fabrics, Dior's collection was hotly debated upon its release, with some praising it as a return to true haute couture, while others decried it as wasteful and regressive. In fact, there were even a few protests by men and women's organizations. Regardless, the new look quickly took off with the general public, and Dior's glamorous designs eventually came to define post-war style. Although the French fashion industry had faltered during World War II, they soon took back their title as the fashion capital of the world. And to keep up with demand, American department stores began importing the latest Parisian designs for their wealthiest clients. One notable example was aalyiah, who held an event at their department store in 1949 displaying the work of several notable French designers, including Balenciaga, Balmain, Lanvin, and Christian Dior, who also attended. 6 pieces from Dior's recent fall-winter collection, titled Mid-Century, were flown in specially for the event, and they were considered the highlight of the evening, which is quite impressive considering the competition he was up against. While aalyiah customers could purchase the majority of the designs on display, there were 2 notable exceptions. Dior's set of sister gowns were named after Roman goddesses, Juno after the goddess of marriage and fertility, or Hera in her Greek form, and the other was Venus, named after the goddess of love and beauty, or in the Greek, Aphrodite. With its tiers of tulle, shades of blue and green, and sequin details, the train of the Juno dress was intended to resemble a peacock, the goddess's sacred animal. One popular Greek myth states that Hera commanded Argus, a monster with 100 eyes, to keep careful watch of her husband's mistress, but Zeus, ever the philanderer, had Hermes kill Argus, and in honor of her loyal servant, Hera took Argus's numerous eyes and put them into the tail of her favorite bird. And voila, we have the peacock. Apart from that, numerous cultures have associated peacocks with beauty, royalty, and power. And considering the Dior brand was all about highlighting the strength in femininity, the symbolism made perfect sense. The Venus dress also took inspiration from the goddess it got its name from, with its light pink hue being symbolic of love and femininity. Having a more abstract skirt shape than the Juno, the dress was reminiscent of sea foam and seashells, an ode to the ancient story claiming that the goddess emerged from the ocean, which was famously referenced in the 15th century painting The Birth of Venus. After seeing the two gowns, the department store's president, Grover Magnon, declared that they were works of art that would never go on sale, and he decided to use them exclusively as showpieces. Although both dresses caused quite a stir with young women, Venus seemed to be the more popular of the two, which is quite ironic in hindsight. Eventually, Magnon made the decision to donate the gowns to the De Young Museum as a way of documenting the fashions of that particular era, while also ensuring that even more women would have the chance to enjoy the dresses in the years to come. The gowns proceeded to be shown in exhibits all over the world, sometimes individually or as a pair, but time has started to take its toll. Venus, which was originally described as pink, has since faded to gray, and both gowns are now so fragile that anytime they're moved, they lose precious sequins. Although they've been undergoing careful restoration at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, each gown is handled as little as physically possible, and it's likely that they won't be displayed again for several years. Luckily, they've found a new life as a source of inspiration, with the House of Dior referencing both designs several times in recent years. For their Spring 2010 collection, John Galliano showed a gown with sequined tulle pleats that paid homage to the original Venus dress. Maria Grazia Curie did something similar for Spring 2017, releasing an ombre dress called the New Juno. And in Fall 2023, Kim Jones gave the looks a streetwear edge for the brand's menswear line. While Dior had been inspired by the dresses on the runways, there haven't been any real attempts on their part to recreate them, until recently that is. While attending the 2023 Cannes Film Festival, actress and longtime Dior ambassador Natalie Portman wore a near-exact replica of the Juno gown, although if I'm being honest, it's not quite as show-stopping as the original. Besides the new dress having more of a stark white base, the shape is also a little bit different, having a shorter train and a higher back, and even the scalloped layers look a touch less whimsical. At the 2024 Academy Awards, another Dior ambassador, Anya Taylor-Joy, was spotted in a gown loosely inspired by the Venus dress. Unlike the original, which went in a more romantic direction with its flowing skirt and pink hue, the new gown reminds me more of a mermaid thanks to its metallic shades and fitted silhouette, but I actually think it's a great reinterpretation that would play well alongside the other two. As one of Christian Dior's most memorable gowns, Juno has also inspired other fashion houses, including Zuhair Murad, whose Spring 2009 collection featured an assortment of aquatic looks that either loosely or directly referenced Dior's designs. This knockoff Juno later made headlines after teen queen Miley Cyrus wore it while attending the 2009 Academy Awards. Admittedly, I was still at an age where Miley Cyrus could do no wrong in my eyes, but I distinctly remember seeing a photo of her in this dress and thinking that she looked stunning. So imagine my surprise when I discovered that the look had put her on several of the night's worst dress lists. Now say what you will about copying versus referencing in fashion, but I still think the Zuhair Murad dress is a love letter to the Juno, although I do agree that the belt was totally unnecessary. Maybe it's just me, but I also felt as though the Juno and Venus dresses served as a point of reference for Miss Sohi's recent Spring 2024 collection, with a few of the looks incorporating similar embellished scales/petals. Now, because of the collection's overall mystical and romantic feel, you could make the argument that it's just the modern mermaid interpretation that has become the brand's signature, but there's just something about it that reminds me of an edgy take on Dior. The 2022 film, Don't Worry Darling, has a distinctive 1950s aesthetic that relates to its exploration of gender roles, power dynamics, and female agency. Now, I wasn't a huge fan of the film, but I did enjoy its costume design, which riffs on popular mid-century trends. At a party attended by all of the husbands and wives, Olivia Wilde's character, Bunny, is spotted in a cocktail dress that pays homage to the Juno. Instead of the individual tulle petals, the dress has a mesh overlay that replicates the pattern, making it a bit more similar to the cupcake dresses that were popular during the era. Although I appreciate the reference, I do think the dress winds up looking like a cheap knockoff, because a big part of the magic was its intricate layers. Now, it'd be impossible to talk about Juno and Venus's impact on pop culture without mentioning Wicked. One of the most popular musicals in Broadway history, and now an Oscar-winning film, the show's costumes were designed by Susan Hilferty, who took inspiration from the 1890s and the 1940s, often mashing the two together. Galinda's iconic bubble dress, which is what she's introduced in, isn't subtle with its Juno references, although the bodice and sleeves are a good deal sturdier since she has to literally be hoisted up into the air. Galinda's engagement dress is green, which highlights her complicated relationship with both Elphaba and the Emerald City. And although it's a far cry from Venus's original color, as is the more structured princessy bodice, the distinctive scaled bustle is a clear sign of its inspirations. Considering Glinda wears a pink ball gown in the 1939 Wizard of Oz film, I'm surprised they didn't make her bubble dress the same color, which is why I fully understood the decision to switch it to pink in the film adaptation. I'm a good 2 decades too late, but I personally think they should have switched the inspirations for Glinda's dresses in the musical, giving her a pink Venus bubble dress and a greenish-blue Juno dress for her engagement. But maybe that's just because I'm desperate to see Venus the way she was meant to be. Do you like the Juno or the Venus dress more? And which iconic fashion moment would you like to see next? Don't forget to check out June's journey by clicking the link in the description or scanning the QR code. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Bye!